I decided not to do an intro to this video. I wanted to take this time to ask you guys to do something I never asked, and that's to share this video. This is one of those cases that truly needs more exposure. It's a heartbreaking story about a teenage girl coming out of South Carolina, and it's one of those stories that didn't receive the media attention it deserved. Whenever you're finished watching this video, share it on other social media sites. Help the story spread, because again, it needs all the help it can get. So please, whenever you're done watching this video, share it and help spread the word. January 1st, 2007. The world would make way for Maylashia, Hogg. She's originally from Atlanta, Georgia. However, her family would make a transition to Barnwell, South Carolina, where her mother's family resided. As a child, she's described as someone who was fun and loving. She's described as someone who enjoyed listening to music, dancing, and hanging out with family and friends. When Maylashia was only a child, she would experience her first hardship. She would end up losing her father. Upon this tragic circumstance, she would become in the total care of her mother, Charity. As life began to move along and she transitioned from a child into a teenager, she's acquired a little bit more of a personality. She has now become the light of any room. She had the ability to place a smile upon your face. She's described as funny. She was the friend that would do anything she could to get a laugh out of you. But aside from being funny, she also had a feisty side. She's described as someone who wasn't afraid to put you in your place. But being stern didn't take away from her having a big heart. By January 1st of 2021, Maylashia is now 14 years old. She's still under the care of her mother Charity, but now she has acquired a stepfather. Sadly, shortly after Maylasia's birthday, she would face yet another hardship in her life. January of 2021 would also be the month she lost her mother. Her mother would lose her life due to medical complications. But now that she's gone, 14-year-old Maylashia Hogg must now learn to navigate through life without the guidance of her parents. After the passing of her mother, she would go to live with her grandfather, who also resided in Barnwell. Life for Maylashia after the passing of her mother began to become a rocky road. A normally well-behaved student became someone who began to act out. She would often run away from home and return shortly afterwards, and she was beginning to become a handful for her grandfather. But although she was becoming a handful, that didn't stop the love he had for her. He understood what she was going through. Now, fast forward years after the passing of her mother, and she's now 17 years old. The year is now 2024. She will start the New Year's off as usual, celebrating her birthday, but year 17 would be different for her, because the year prior, she would find out that she was becoming a mother. She was about to welcome a baby girl into this world, who she was planning to name after her mother. As her due date is drawing closer, she's getting more and more excited. She would often tell her family and friends how good of a mother she would be to her child. February 6, 2024. On this day, Maylashia would leave her grandfather's home en route to her boyfriend's house, who lived in Colony West Apartments, also located in Barnwell, South Carolina. The plan was to go over there and then return home shortly afterward. But Maylashia didn't make it home that night. By February 7th, still no sign of her. Now, Maylashia disappearing for a day or two was nothing new, so in the beginning, there was no cause for panic. But when she didn't show up on the 8th, the family really began to worry, and her aunt would eventually report her missing to the authorities. They were worried, but they were hoping she would turn up soon. She was also due to be induced February 13th. Well, guess what? February 13th shows up, the day she's supposed to have her child. But Maylashia is still missing. Now, I initially stated that she was reported missing by her aunt on February 8th, but the authorities haven't really been searching for her. They were treating this case as if she was a runaway, even though she was pregnant and a teenager. Now that February 13th has come and gone and Maylashia is still missing, on the 14th, the authorities finally decide to escalate the situation. They would put out the first missing persons post, asking for any clues or leads that would lead directly to her whereabouts. But this is days later. But nonetheless, it's put out on January 14th, and it would begin to spread locally. The authorities would decide to interview family and friends and associates of Maylashia. Several of the family members would give the same story. The last time she was ever seen was at her boyfriend's house, but after that, nothing. At this point, they have now talked to her boyfriend, and he as well didn't know where she was. Time would continue to elapse. The 14th would turn into the 15th, and then the 15th to the 16th. And then the 16th would make way for the 17th. By the 17th, the authorities have no information. They were keeping in contact with her aunt, but her aunt lived out of town. As far as her grandfather and caretaker, they weren't getting any calls from the authorities. At that point in time, her grandfather was in the dark. Now, the authorities had claimed that they had did a canvass of the area and searched thoroughly. But the thing you're about to hear next directly contradicts that story. Sunday, February 18th, a body would be discovered behind Fuller Park, located in Barnwell, South Carolina. Due to this being an ongoing investigation, the authorities aren't saying how they found the body, but there was one. Behind Fuller Park is a wooded area, and in this wooded area is where they would find the body of 17-year-old Maylashia Hogg. But to add insult to injury, the authorities said they searched for her, but she was discovered less than a mile away from her home.
She had everything ready to welcome her new baby girl into the world. Maylasia's aunt says she was looking forward to becoming a mom, but instead of enjoying this time with her new baby, her family is planning funerals for the both of them. Her family and friends made this memorial for Maylashia and her baby. Down below is the ditch, and that's where they say her body was found. So as you can imagine, this family is at a loss of words right now. This is supposed to be a special time in their family, welcoming a new baby into the family. Maylasia's aunt says she was a student at Barnwell High and planned to go back to school after she had the baby because she had plans to become a nurse.
This is now an official homicide investigation. But the authorities are still at square one. They have no suspects, at least none that they're releasing, and no leads. Due to the nature of the case, the authorities aren't releasing anything. Not the autopsy results, and nor any suspects. The only thing the authorities released to the media was that when Maylashia was found, she wasn't found with any bruising or marks. But besides that information, nothing. The authorities wouldn't even tell the family her cause of death. Her own family. Her family would be forced to bury her with no real answers. In fact, the day they buried her, the casket was empty. By the time her day came to lay her to rest, the authorities still hadn't turned over her body. And while the family attempts to grieve, they're still in the dark. Which brings me to my next question. Do you believe in coincidences? Because there's a chilling element to this case. On February 6th of 2024, the same day that Malaysia was seen last at the Colony West Apartments, a man went missing there. A man who goes by the name of Michael Steele. He too was last seen at his home in the Colony West Apartments, the same apartment complex that Malaysia's boyfriend resided at. The authorities would release a statement in regards to Michael Steele's case, but the only thing that they would say is that they hadn't found a connection between the two disappearances. But if you ask me, judging by the way that they handled this case, I'm not even sure if they looked into that properly. Because while this could be a mere coincidence, that's kind of a strong one. The case of Malaysia Hogg is still an ongoing investigation, as well as Michael Steele's. The authorities did release to the media that there is an active reward for any information. The reward you'll receive, a whopping $300. That's it. $300 for the information that leads to an arrest of the unsolved case of Malaysia Hogg.
Smart, loving, with a bright future. 17-year-old Malaysia Hogg was found dead in a ditch after being reported missing in Barnwell. She was 9 months pregnant. And as they make plans for her funeral, they're also starting their fight for justice. Hallie Turner live with us in the studio with the latest.
Judy Hogg says her 17-year-old niece Malaysia had one thing on her mind: the future, one that included being a nurse and a mom. But now both of those things have been ripped from their family.
Every time I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I think of is Malaysia, like, dang, she gone.
Judy Hogg says the loss of her niece brings back a familiar pain.
That just brought back so many memories, and it opened up so many wounds. Losing her was like losing my sister over again. I was living through, and is still living through, her kids.
She says Malaysia was young, outgoing, and full of life.
She was a free spirit. Like, everybody knew Malaysia around here.
She was also expecting a baby girl, London, just before Valentine's Day.
She was over the top. She was talking about it. She was showing me the sonograms of the baby. We had already had a nickname for the baby. We was gonna call her our little Tink Tink.
But when she didn't show up just before she was set to be induced, things changed.
I was like, where is Malaysia? But then when I talked to my dad, he said that someone had saw her and that she had lost her phone and that she would be home Monday, because she knew that I had to take her to the doctor on Tuesday because she was going to be induced on Tuesday. And after she didn't show up Monday, I was like, Dad, something's wrong.
Deputies found Malaysia's body just outside of a park in Barnwell. And as her family picks up the pieces, they are setting their eyes on justice.
We're going to find justice. We're gonna get them, whoever did it. Just know, we're going to get you. Make sure you just tell your babies that you love them, because you never know the last time that you're gonna. You don't know the last time you're gonna see your baby.
We ain't gonna stop.
Now her body is being autopsied in Newberry tomorrow, and they're hoping to know more about how she died and why.
And we know that family's dealing with a lot right now. Hallie, thanks for the update there.
Someone, somewhere, knows something. And if you do, that isn't something you should hold on to. Everything about this case is completely heartbreaking. Truly a sad story. Rest in peace Malaysia, Hogg. Thank you for being a light for others. I truly hope you receive the justice that you deserve.